So today I'm going to show you how I get super soft cinnamon rolls. And this really nice cream cheese glaze, or is it frosting? Either way, this tastes really good. A warm cinnamon roll is super comforting, especially on a rainy day like today. These are soft with a nice chew to them and them taste great. Sweet but not overly sweet, and the flavors are well balanced. Let's jump right in, but first hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss new uploads. And leave a comment too. I really like hearing what you guys think. So this is the secret to getting super soft cinnamon rolls that stay softer for longer. I'm mixing half cup or a little over 100 milliliters of milk with about 4 tablespoons or 30 grams of flour. We want to cook this on low heat. I should have dissolved the flour in the milk first and actually use low heat, but it's still good. This is called a tangzang, and it's a cooked flour paste that improves the texture and shelf life of these products. Want to cook this for about 3 to 5 minutes until it gets thick. This is kinda rough because I didn't dissolve the flour properly before heating, but it's still going to do its job. Tangzang is usually 5 parts water or milk to 1 part flour. This is usually a portion of the entire recipe. Pre-cooking flour this way gels some of the starch, which improves the texture and delays staling. Let that cool before you use it. Right, time to make the dough. I'm going to be using half cup or about 120 milliliters of milk, half tablespoon or 9 grams of dry active yeast, cracking 1 whole egg. This is going to improve the texture of the finished product as well. About 2 tablespoons of sugar. We really don't want this to be too sweet. A teaspoon of salt. Alright, give that a really nice mix so everyone can get to know each other. Okay, next add the cool flour paste. Xiangxiang is getting really hard for me to pronounce. Get every last bit. Now give that a really nice mix to introduce the flour paste to everyone else. And we'll go ahead and add about a cup of flour and mix really well. This is a high hydration dough, which means a high liquid to flour ratio. So it's going to be sticky throughout most of the process. I'm going to be using butter in this dough, but for most yeast products, you want to add the butter much later after you develop some amount of gluten, because butter makes gluten development harder. Now, I'm going to let this rest for 15 to 20 minutes. Resting it at this point gets fermentation going, builds some flavors, and reduces the amount of time I will end up needing the dough for. 20 minutes later, the dough has puffed up a bit. You can see some air bubbles and you can start to smell that lovely fermented aroma. Next, add about a cup of flour and mix with a spoon. Mix until you can go in with your hands. And when you're finally using your hands, just fold the dough over and press with the heel of your palm. This is going to be really sticky, but continue to work with it. The dough will get smooth and easier to handle. You might have to wash your hands once or twice. Now there's a fair amount of gluten development, so next add half cup or close to 120 grams of softened butter and work that into the dough. This is still going to be really sticky, but continue to knead the dough and it will eventually get smoother and easier to work with. When it's smooth, you can go ahead and ball it up, wrap it, and let it rise for about half hour to 45 minutes. This really depends on the temperature of your kitchen. For enriched doughs like this, which just means there's eggs, extra fat, and sugar, I usually let them rise to 60 to 70% bigger instead of doubling, or else they overproof and the taste and texture ends up way off. Alright, while that is rising, I can work on the cream cheese glaze. It's really cream cheese frosting, but it melts on warm cinnamon rolls to give me this delicious glaze. Easiest way I found is to use my immersion blender with the whisk extension and a tall narrow container. Start by whipping 50 grams of softened butter till it's light and fluffy. To the butter, add 50 grams of softened cream cheese. My name drop it today. Give that a nice whisk. Nice. Next, add some vanilla. Just eyeball it, but this is about a tablespoon. Next, a splash of really nice tasting rum. This brings the frosting to another level. Then add a cup of powdered sugar and whisk that together. Could take a pinch of salt. Let's pop that into the fridge and perfect timing. The dough is ready. It's about 60% bigger and it smells great. Next, I'm flouring my work surface. Going to divide my dough into halves for easier handling. Fold on top to form a ball and then tighten on the work surface. This is going to help to improve the texture and structure of the final product, and it makes handling the dough much easier. Repeat with the next half, fold over, tuck and tighten on the work surface. Alright, let's roll it out. I'm lightly flouring my rolling pin and the dough to prevent sticking. I'll give it a couple presses to make rolling much easier. Then just roll it out. I'm aiming for a rough rectangle, so I will roll it with that in mind and flip at in the intervals till I have something that closely resembles a rectangle. You could trim the edges to get a rectangle after you reach the thickness you want, but I'm keeping this as is. This cutting board is kind of convenient. Next, brush generously with butter, covering the entire surface. So for the cinnamon in the roll, we mix about a cup of sugar with cinnamon. I usually just eyeball the cinnamon. I usually eyeball most things. Give that a mix. Could take more cinnamon, kinda light. That's better. Sugar has a few lumps, but that's okay, they'll dissolve. Next, sprinkle the mixture evenly over the butter. You could mix the butter, sugar, and cinnamon, but that's a lot harder to work with, especially if the butter gets cold and hard. Personally, this is better. Get as even as a layer as possible of the cinnamon and sugar mixture. Next, we roll. The first roll is always awkward, but try to keep it tight. Just fold it over and kind of tug on it a bit with each fold. And we repeat until our roll is done. Almost there. Nice. Now we have a nice log. Just divide it in half. Looks good. Divide each half in half again until you reach the appropriate width. This is just to get uniformly sized cinnamon rolls. Next, I'm generously greasing a baking pan. Placing the cinnamon rolls, giving them a little room to rise and fill out while they proof and bake. I'm giving them the final rise in the oven, just let the oven warm a bit, and then place them in. These took about 20 minutes. Those are ready to bake now. One of my favorite things about cinnamon rolls is the smell when baking them. 350 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes should be good. "25 minutes later and them done. My god, that smells nice. Brush with butter while them still warm. This will help keep the crust soft and it looks good. Alright, next, just brush on the cream cheese frosting. Be generous so some of it can melt down the sides. These are super soft and look so delicious. Ooh, look at that. That's soft and moist and the smell is something else. Okay, so looks are one thing, smell is another thing, but how it tastes? Let me find out real quick. Uh-huh, it's hit the mark. This is probably the most delicious cinnamon roll I've ever had. The cream cheese frosting with that hint of rum just complements it perfectly. Perfect. The flour paste really improved the texture compared to other cinnamon rolls I've made without it. So let's have a look at a day old cinnamon roll without the tangzang. That's dry and crumbly, but now let's have a look at a cinnamon roll with the tangzang a day later and compare. That's not as soft and moist as fresh out the oven, but still miles better than the cinnamon roll without the flour paste. Alright, so there you have it, the secret to delicious moist cinnamon rolls. Thanks for sticking around till the end and please leave a comment.